Okay, we're back. It is the 18th century. It's the age of revolutions. And this is where there can be some fairly massive border adjustments depending on who plays their cards right.
What's interesting today is that the Timrid player is 6, so he's protected. And the same is for the Milan player, so...
Yeah, so Milan and Timurids, you know, they better hope they set their AI settings properly, but that means if they get embroiled in the war that started against them, they won't be, you won't be able to drag the land away from them.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens this session, because this is where it's all gonna be decided.
Oh yeah, at this point, this is where people solidify their positions, and we'll start to see, you know, who is certainly going to be coming out on top. I mean, Commonwealth, for example, is in a very strong position, but it would just take their neighbours deciding they've had enough of Commonwealth's interference in wars to kind of cleave them apart, take away their victory cards, and leave them high and dry. Of course, there's the likes of Saxony, who's doing not too bad on score themselves, who might want to strike out and be a winner. Honourable mention to Brazil as well.
I mean, if we're looking at the borders, we're talking border war and so on. Saxony is like they are entirely reliant on Brunswick being their friend.
Oh yeah, if Brunswick weren't there as their insulation, they'd just be cleaved in half. They've got no defence in depth. So... Okay, Grugi's making good on his word to attack Japan, but I somehow don't think that's going to work out in Australia's benefit. I think the situation will evolve beyond that. I want to take a look at Japan, admire the fact that they have maxed out their naval hegemon power there, and we're getting to the point where we're probably going to start seeing people strive towards economic hegemon and perhaps even military hegemon, which have their own pretty powerful bonuses. But when it comes to income, I forget who was number one. Brazil was pretty high on that list for income with 819 ducats per month. They are rolling in it. And if they manage to get that up to 1,000, they'll be able to claim that economic hegemon. I think Brazil's in a pretty good place to get that. But who else are the big earners? Of course, Brazil makes all that money coming into Sevilla, don't they?
Delhi got to 700.
Oh yeah, Delhi's looking real rich. I reckon if Nepal and Delhi put their act together, they would probably be able to, well, let one of them get to that hegemon position. But I imagine it would be Delhi. They hold all the cards right now.
Well, if I'm Delhi, I would rather aim for the...
Going for the military one.
Yeah, because that's insane when you have so many enemies. What is Grugi talking about? That he did a war against...
Yeah, he did.
Japan.
He did a war against Japan. I don't think it went too well for him.
There was some reason he wanted it.
He's up to some jiggery pokery.
Ah, he's Nahuatl.
Oh right, he probably needed the war to convert because Japan already was, because Australia wanted to become Nahuatl and probably start culling his vassals' royalty. Somebody in chat is taking issue with the idea of Yemen being in Africa. Well, I think they've earned it, and the way they're getting cleaved apart by the Jerusalemites, they might fully become African at this rate. So yeah, let's talk a bit about the Pope and Jerusalem, and I suppose Milan. Locked out of expanding in land in Europe, they turned over to well, to the Near East and then going their way down Arabia and Egypt. I do wonder where they would go beyond that, though. Their options are extremely limited. The entire world at this point is owned by...
We have a huge player war.
Ooh, yeah, we just saw the cult arms. That's the Papal Prussian Imperialist War. Is this the war to bring down the Prussians?
Prussia, Saxony, Brunswick, Commonwealth on one side, everyone else on the other side.
Whoa, no kidding. Everyone. It's got the Indians, it's got the Chinese, it's got all of Africa, it's got South America. Like Mexico is probably the only country that's staying neutral in all of this.
Yeah, we have to drop out short notice. It's one of the CK3 people. So
Okay, what do we have here then? Looking at the numbers, 1.55 million raw infantry on the Pope's side. Yeah, they've brought the world together, probably to end Prussia's dominance, because in the previous war, Prussians arrived and then suddenly everyone was like, okay, we need to back out here. They just couldn't take them on. Now, though, now it's Prussia and Prussia's friends.
Hungary is on the other side. Hungary is an enemy of the Commonwealth. Everyone's against the.
Yeah, Commonwealth's going to have to fight to hold on to what they have here. And it kind of works against them. See, Prussia is the last line in all of this. Right? People have to cleave through Commonwealth, through Saxony, through Brunswick to get to them.
There's naval battles in the.
In the where?
They're gonna. The Baltic. There's a huge Japanese fleet there.
Oh, yeah.
Australia.
There we go. So Japan is part of this coalition as well. And Japan's going to be making the big money off of blockading the likes of Lubeck. So, alright. Fight's already going on in Pest. That's the Commonwealth being ejected. You can't bring 30,000 men to a fight anymore. It's you've got to commit, and commit hard with these kinds of numbers.
Central Alliance that dictated the wars, the ruined Burgundy, the ruined France, the ruined Switzerland, they drove out Sweden and Denmark from the map, and they destroyed Austria. Now there are the 4 left there, and against the entire world.
That's some Dev Clash level coalition and aggressive expansion for you, because yes, this quartet has spelt the end of many players. Together they are the players' slayers. But now the world is here to try and put them in their place. I say try because there's a defender's advantage for these Prussia, Brunswick, Commonwealth, Saxony, right? They are fairly condensed here. If you ignore the Russian part of Commonwealth, they have a lot of land, a lot of resources to pull from. And if they kicked out, say, Japanese troops, well, they've got a long way to run. And the defenders here have all this land to pluck their resources from. So,
but I don't know where the Japanese...
Yeah, I'm not so sure the Japanese will arrive with boots on the ground. Looks like they're more there for the naval stuff. Look, they're invading Bornholm right now. Yeah, France is the only one not involved in player war right now, currently gunning down the Dutch instead. Alright, so we have Andalusians sieging up Commonwealth in their Austrian area. Now, of course, Austria would jump on this war. Austria will really, really be wanting their cores back. What few cores they still have, that is, because they lost their cores on Austria proper. It was culturally enriched to Czech not too long ago. But these are big numbers. I hazard to think when we've seen... I'm counting the amount of troops on the attackers' side here. It's over 2.5 million, which is pretty intense.
It's basically half the world under arm.
Oh yeah. Now, are all the nations getting involved here? Because I see a lot of Delian troops still hanging back in Delhi. I don't see Nepalese troops in Nepal. Even Yemen is mobilizing. That's how you know things are getting real.
A coalition, a world coalition.
And it's not the smallest of front either. Right, they could attack from any... They could attack from all ends, frankly. What are the Prussians up to? Might be a little dangerous if they hang around on Sjælland for too long. Especially with the Japanese naval superiority. If they cut them off by taking the...
Yeah, well, the Jerusalem fleet is cutting them off. They control the straits, though, so they can't march.
Yeah, but if those provinces on the side were to fall, that would be dangerous. Daniel's saying this is the numbers versus quality fight. I think there's going to be a lot of fights going on here. We've got a big one going on in Biden.
Take a look at the Pomeranian coastline, because the Prussian fleet just went out to fight the...
Ooh, I'm not sure that's a good idea for the Prussian fleet. There they go, they've been chased away. That Japanese fleet cannot be budged. Right, they are the hegemon, they are the huge fleet.
Japan is trying to land an army there. to force the fleet
Yeah,
out.
they want
But
to.
they're
Oh, there we go. They got trapped by the Prussians. There's the thing. The Japanese army doesn't fight that well. And, well, it doesn't fight at all now. It just got wiped out.
they were trying to eliminate the Prussian fleet like that,
Yeah.
but
A nice try, but of course they could not have seen the Prussian army coming. An admirable attempt. Right, well that's Austria proper being sieged up by Pope and Andalusia. The United States are here as well, so's Britain. So there's no shortage of units around here. Already been quite a few sizable battles.
and Jake. But the key thing here is that the Commonwealth victory cards are occupied.
You don't. You have to keep them in your control in order to benefit from them. So if we look at Commonwealth score right now, it's actually going down. Those cards are not in their control. And if they lose even just one province from them, yeah, Brno. Now this is quality versus quantity. Those Prussians, they've got a ton of morale. They have otherworldly discipline, but there's a lot of backup coming in from Saxony. There are a lot of countries to coordinate in this attack, so it's going to be vitally important that they can actually work together. That's going to be an advantage for Commonwealth Prussia, Saxony and Brunswick, because it'll be a lot easier for 4 countries to organize their troops rather than the 14 countries as part of the coalition.
But the manpower is just gonna.
Oh yeah, manpower is going to be a perennial concern here. We've got the Delian army force marching their way in. Lots of Delians. Oh wow. Fashionably late to the party, but oh, that could work against them if they're still marching in. Yeah, some of them just got splatted in Brno. So that was a great fight for the defenders there. And notice that's all of them, right? We have the Prussians, we have the Saxons, we have Brunswick, and we're fighting in Commonwealth.
Well, they were doing that. They were in like twice as many armies everywhere else in Commonwealth and Saxony, just sieging them.
Yeah, these battles, they will take some time and some attention, and that can cause other areas to get sieged up. But it looks like the Commonwealth's interested in protecting their land. They're taking the fight to Benin over in Raoni. They might have picked a bad fight, depends if those reinforcements get in there in time. Oh, even Yemen's around, but there are more Commonwealths coming in. They still fight on horseback, and it's working well.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Crazy numbers and a big border to have them all fighting. The Austrians pouring in, the Nepalese pouring in. Ooh, that's an ill-timed retreat. They must have seen the Prussians on their way, and that left Nepal to get squished on their own there.
I'm just looking at it though. It's like Commonwealth can keep fighting for a few more years like that.
Yeah, they got bottomless treasury right now, and their manpower is still looking pretty good. 100,000 manpower for Commonwealth. Brunswick's below 50k. Saxony's got 83k. Once those manpower numbers start going down and nations aren't able to refresh their units, things are going to get a bit hairier. But the manpower pools for each of the attackers is quite a bit lower, but there are more of them, far more of them. Oh, there's Milan. I forgot Milan is controlled by the AI, so they're probably not making the best of decision by going into Prague. Well.
The army. The AM Milanese is just sieging down shit in the background.
Well, getting stuff sieged down is not too bad a thing. Yeah, they've taken down Troyes, now they're going on for Reims. That's what I mean, no defense in depth for Saxony. Once you're 2 provinces deep into them, you're already coming out the other side. Somebody in chat, Sari333, is pointing out that Vermont and the US were saved by the players that they're now coalitioning. I'm afraid that's realpolitik for you.
And there's a huge battle in Ukraine, but I think the Commonwealth's going to win that one as well.
I don't know, that's a lot of Sardinians right on the border, just waiting for their moment to strike. Austrians as well, Nepalese, that's a whole load. Prussia's marching over, but they're just marching in with raw infantry. All the while, man, the Commonwealth troops, they stick around for a while.
Austin armies, there's everything.
Yeah, there's Brazilians, Yemen, Nepal. Okay, but in come I can even hear elephants in that fight. Yeah, they marched half the world over for this. But though those losses, thousands upon thousands dying each and every day, those manpower pools are going to be running drier and drier. And leadership on both sides, extremely strong, 566 versus 564. And it's flatlands, right? No advantage or disadvantage on either side. But when those Prussians come in, those numbers start dwindling away. Cannons on the front line for the Pope. Needs some backup.
Benin troops are arriving.
Yeah, Benin's on his way. Oh, well, that looks like a break in the line for the Prussians. It's going to come down to the wire, but we have the Genoese arriving. Bjorn B is here to settle matters.
And victory for the coalition.
Victory for the coalition. They've sent a lot of Prussian units packing. How's Prussia looking on that manpower? They have 143,000, but they need 140,000 to reinforce all their armies right now. So Prussia is probably going to have to start looking into mercenaries.
And recruitment standards.
That's another option. But then they'll get rid of some of their amazing professionalism that they enjoy right now, which is super high. The Prussians ran at the mere idea of Genoese arriving on the battle, but that bought the coalition some time to siege up the Commonwealth quite a bit. One consideration the Commonwealth might do is go, hey, I don't need to lose my scorecards out of this and wipe peace out, and that would leave others in a bad state. But it would also leave Commonwealth in a very weak diplomatic point, so I would be surprised if he did that. I'm just saying it's an option. There we go, Milan, Vermont, Delhi, Papal State. They're all pouring in, they're all kind of guarding each other, sticking close, which is what you have to do. In a war like this, the nail that sticks out is the one that gets hammered down. If you stray off the beaten path, you'll be prey for the Prussians, whose manpower is going down and down. There's some questions about the Hungarian rebels, to which I say, what rebels? What rebels indeed?
Great Confucian.
Yeah, they managed to go Confucian, which means they're probably going to want the Empire of China off of, well, China. But it also knocks them out from being the emperor. Actually, it's the Commonwealth who's the emperor right now. Okay, Delhi took a step too far. They went for Warsaw. And he just got taught, don't attack Warsaw. Commonwealth wasn't standing for any of that. In fact, the Prussians are on the march. They're taking notice of the lack of cohesion between the attackers, and he's putting those Prussian ideals to use. He's stomping down on even the Brazilians, but people have leapt in to defend. Austria's on their way, Papal State's on their way. Brazil's getting out of there, but the losses are enormous.
Russian are sent packing again.
Oh, but then the Commonwealth ran in a little too late. Oh, wow, okay. Well, that's one less stack to preserve Warsaw. And now that there's kind of a split in Commonwealth with occupations, everything they have over on the Russian side is just open to the highest bidder. I reckon if just one or two of the countries dedicated themselves to sieging down Commonwealth, they could get them booted out. Just say that somebody like, I don't know, Hungary and Genoa focus on sieging up Russia, and that would be the end of Commonwealth. The Commonwealth need to be on their guard, because they're already sieged down in Austria proper, and they're not far off of Warsaw. Commonwealth's individual war score at a -14 here.
Their armies are getting hammered. Stack wipes.
Oh yeah, they have a deficit of 60,000 men right now. Their army it's not even 200,000 now. It's pretty low down for this stage in the game. And Austria must be enjoying this revenge against his hated enemy, the Commonwealth. This has been, I reckon, a long time coming. I see Ming armies involved as well. Clausewitz is cool, just chiming in saying, I love this game, and that is Yemen with Yemeni Africa. Yemen, funnily enough, siding with his oppressors. He did get fairly hammered down by the Italians and is now on the Italian side in this war against the Prussians. One wonders what for. Some questions asking about the attrition losses. They must be pretty heavy. Oh, they are. No, it's in...
I have a comment. You see, it's the papal Prussian imperialist. It's led by Wyss. And I was thinking, like, how the hell do you get such a diverse coalition together to fight someone? And then I realized, who's leading it?
Yeah,
it's Wyss.
It's Wyss, the master of diplomacy in this game. And that's a dangerous combination by the fact that he's actually really rather good at the game as well. So when you combine great diplomacy and great playing, you've got a behemoth in the multiplayer scene.
And he ran out under the hood with playing the papacy there. Okay, we have a battle in Lithuania now.
Yeah.
The Brunswick army getting caught.
Aye, but in come the Delians. They're the Benines there as well. Brunswick's coming in with reinforcements. A lot of Prussians pouring in as well. That's a dangerous thing. But now we're having multiple battles. Multiple battles going on around.
Fight.
Yeah, more fights happening over in Lubin and further down to the southwest. It's a big battle, but reinforcements almost arriving. But Sardinia-Piedmont jumped in to catch them off. And that could work very well in their favour because there's not a lot left holding that Brunswick line together. The Chinese arrive in the droves just to keep those reinforcements at bay, and they're doing a great job at it. And for that, Brunswick and the Prussians are forced to retreat. And right after that, the different stacks are splitting up. They don't want to be in the same place. You cannot feed 500,000 men in a standing army in one wee 11 development Lithuanian province. You could try, but you will die.
The German fleets are getting destroyed by people just assaulting them.
Yeah, there we go. There's Brazil knocking out the Brunswick fleet. Is that really Brazil? Okay, but it's being led by a Jerusalemite 6'5" admiral. Good heavens. I really hope we can speak to Duplo at the end and hear how bravely his navies fought. So Commonwealth must be feeling a bit of sweat trickling down the neck at this point. Half their country is being sieged up, both sides. Their army's been reduced quite a bit. Their manpower is not looking too hot. They've clearly had to slacken to get some extra manpower, but that just means they fight a little less good in each fight. The stacks that are around in Commonwealth are individually quite small, but they're positioned such that they can group up very quickly.
Prussians are marching to Memel to catch a single Brazilian stack, which
there we go. That's how the Prussians should really operate. They can march around with an incredibly powerful, concise stack. Look at this one, plenty of infantry, maximum width of cannons on the back, and they just strike, wipe, pull back, and that'll put them in a great position.
Three different.
Oh yeah, it's no holds barred. They've maxed out their militarization in Prussia. He has spent 12,000 ducats since the start of this war. So he's spent over a third of what he has. I reckon that's going to keep going down for a bit. Big fight over in Podlasie to take on the Prussians there. Actually fighting into the Prussians in a disadvantageous terrain position might not be the best fight for the coalition, but they're pouring in everything they got. Not many people are holding them back there.
The Prussians are relying on mercenaries. They have freed large mercenary army.
Yeah, I see the independent army standing now. But that's all they can do if they run out of manpower and they don't want to make their to slacken to make their troops fight worse. They're gonna have to do that. But the thousands of losses every day. This is a deadly one for well, I'd say mostly for Europe, but certainly for all of the world.
They're gonna win this battle.
Yeah, I reckon they will. They've got that defender's terrain advantage. That said, the Ming army still wants to pull to come on in. Sardinia-Piemont's holding at the side. But there are a lot of Commonwealths to pour on in as well. Oh, I wouldn't want to call it just yet. That's a lot of reinforcements coming in on both sides. But I don't think the attackers have anything more that they can pull from here. No, it's cannons on the front line for the attackers. They are down and they are at. Look at those losses, though. I swear I saw 15,000 gone in a day. That said, though, Japan is invading into Brunswick. I don't know why that province in particular. I think he'd want the Brunswick Navy dealt with, but he's probably just doing strike and retreat at this point. That was a good win for Prussia and friends, though, but there have been a lot of occupations that they'll have a hard time dealing with for Commonwealth.
Krug needs to increase game speed again.
Yeah, I think we're down at speed 1. Cannot be tolerated. We need action.
No. But the armies are...
Well, they're pressing the advantage now. I see Prussia is marching their way south, trying to catch out whoever they can. Oh, right, they're besieging Droby Wotsits, Maramos. Just a tiny fight, but that's Landshut. Landshut is one of the favourite AIs, I tell. Okay, Commonwealth clearly focusing on besieging his own country. One can see why. He's got much of Lithuania back under his control. Well, modern Lithuania. 1444 Lithuania is a bit foobar right now. Benin is on a noticeable retreat right now. His armies are fairly battered. How's his manpower looking? Not good. 22k, needs 15 of that to reinforce, and he doesn't really have a lot of professionalism to give up on. Meanwhile, Prussians are taking the fight.
Are going on an offensive in France. They have a huge advantage. The Sardinian armies are all caught up in Ukraine.
Yeah, not to mention they are battered and bloody. Sardinia Piedmont has no manpower, no money, 3 loans. It's not looking too great for them. In fact, their deficit on manpower is 143,000 men. I want to take another look at losses so far. Keep in mind that Prussia is on paper winning this war. They've managed to keep hold of their capital, giving them a staggering 25 war score. On top of that, the losses, though. Whew. It's almost 2 million losses for the defenders, but the attackers have lost 4.5 million. Oh, and I see something. I see Milan wanting to peace out. That's AI Milan for you, not wanting to get roped in with losses. And I think victory comes to the side that manages to peace out the allies faster. Now, obviously, Wiz has a lot more allies on his side, but they're allies which I think will have less investment in the war. Whereas for Prussia, Brunswick, Commonwealth, and Saxony, it's a bit of a suicide arrangement with them. If one of them goes, they all go. And there we go. They can now peace out the Netherlands as well, which I thought were a vassal. I didn't think they were independent, but what do I know? This is looking good for Commonwealth. A lot of his land is being besieged here. Austria proper, not so much, but they'll get to it. Prussia's not piecing out Milan. I don't know if they know that Milan is AI there or not. But looking at the war map, I don't see any player that's been pieced out so far. Now, I imagine that they were hoping the Timurids would be joining in as well, but Timurids are AI today. So I can't imagine the Papal State had what it took.
The AI, the coalition is playing stupid in South Ukraine. They kept going piecemeal to catch a Prussian army.
Ooh, you can't go in piecemeal against the Prussians. You need to focus what you have against them. The United States is pulling out of that one. He sees the way the wind is blowing, but I'm not so sure. They could hold this. Again, it was a river crossing for the attackers here, which isn't so great for them. The Austrians are intercepting the Brunswicks, as are Sardinia Piedmont. All the while, the battle wages on. The thing about those high morale, high discipline Prussian soldiers, they're in there for a very long time. They won't leave anytime soon, and they deal a lot of damage. Oh, but they're out of there. That's a victory for the attackers. They're going to need more of those. The war score is not in Not in the coalition's favor right now. Of course, that would all change if they managed to secure Berlin, but it's a long march to Berlin.
Not that long. Just land in Pomerania and...
Yeah, you just need to march south, but that's a level 8 fort, and there's only so many troops you can land in there. There's the thing about Prussia, ignoring Scandinavia, which is easy to do, they're actually a pretty tight and concise nation. It doesn't take long to march from one end to the other. So that works to their advantage as the defender, not so much for an attacker, because there are obviously forts in the way.
Gotland is taken by Japan, so it's born.
Yeah, this gives Japan a little base of operations for wherever he wants to go. And yeah, Japan could probably make a rush for Berlin if they wanted to turn the war score around, but that wouldn't make a huge odd against a human player. Big amassing in Minsk, but there's no fight to be had unless they want to take on the Commonwealth there. And maybe they do. They're marching in. No, they thought against it. Probably for the better. There are Prussian troops around. Awful is crying in Mexico. One doesn't know why. Oh, Mexico's taking advantage of the situation. Mexico is going in for the United States. Oh, that's not good for the US. Last I saw, he was retreating out of the fight. AI Mexico reckons they've got what it takes to take on Awful. Oh, this will be telling. And Mexico has a tech advantage over the United States as well. Not a bad one at that.
Their fleet is getting sunk. This is the reverse American-Mexican war.
Oh, yeah.
Mexico is AI decisions.
Yeah. Oh, well, I appreciate what Mexico's doing here.
Each battle, the Brazilians are crushing the Prussians in pins.
There we go. Yeah, good fight, but there was some backup there, and the Commonwealth have just defeated another stack just to the north. So, good early advantage for the Brazilians, but if there's reinforcements coming in, like those Saxons and those Brunswicks that are pouring in right now, might not go too well for them. They need to win decisively here. There's a lot of Prussians knocked out there, though. They'll be glad for that.
There's a lot of Chinese coming in. Oh no, yeah. They're catching.
I think the numbers are very much changing to the Prussians' favor here. That's cannons on the front line. That usually spells the end. 10,000, 12,000, 11,000 lost each day. Brutality. But victory for Commonwealth and Prussians there. Gotta hand it to the Commonwealth. They are tanking the pain and devastation in this war for their allies. Nobody has really sunk into Saxony or Brunswick during all this. Indeed, it's Sardinia Piedmont that's taken a fair few occupations. Yeah, 4 of their forts are down. It's painful stuff. Okay, 2/3 of the Prussian treasury has just been tapped out. Even his mercenaries are running low on manpower.
Japan is occupying all of Sweden.
Yeah, the Prussians cannot focus on this as well. Well, I say that, but I do spy an 60 stack marching the way up through Viborg. They'll be entering Finland real soon. Oh my, Jerusalem and Japan, that's not the place to be. You may have secured Obo, but...
Oh yeah, that was to get the Prussian fleet.
Yeah, that was to get the Prussian fleet out. Oh yeah, I don't think they're going to last too long. Okay, they've made a retreat. Where are they going? Down over to Stolp. That's a safer place for the fleet for sure. But that's a lot of land to de-siege for Prussia, and I don't think he can focus entirely on that when there's still... oh, well, I was going to say there's still a lot of fight happening in the Commonwealth, but a lot of the units have pulled back, and they're spread out. So, I don't know how Hungary is for their defensiveness. Where are their forts right now? Not the best forts in the world, I think. There we go, Japan is just painting Sweden red right now. But the Prussians are marching on in. Prussians not happy with that, I think.
Yeah, but they have to march all the way.
But they are force marching. They've got 5 maneuver. They're catching the Japanese at the very least. But it doesn't cost Japan a lot to do that, right? The worst case scenario, he loses like, I don't know, 20, 30,000 troops when the Prussians march in and crush them. All the while, though, it distracts the Prussians, keeps a lot of Prussian men off of the battles where I dare say it matters.
It's interesting because I don't understand why Prussia has not started a golden era. Or why they haven't taken their...
Oh, yeah, they haven't taken their awesome Prussian discipline, have they?
The discipline they've taken, but they can't take another one. Force march cost.
Yeah, force march cost reduction would be pretty good for all the force marching that's happening right now.
Or artillery bonus versus 4.
Alright, looks like the attackers have been chased out of Commonwealth. Now it gives Commonwealth time to de-siege all of that. Prussia's still sitting pretty on a good amount of war score. And this is where things could get real dangerous to the Papal State. He could find that his allies see the way the wind is blowing and decide to scarp her while they can. When he started this war, he had like 1.5 million infantry. He's down to just 1 million infantry now. Have any of the players actually pulled out of the war yet? Not that I can see, so they're holding on. Then again, speaking of holding on, looks like Mexico is holding on to Texas today.
Brunswick's tapped on manpower source, and there's a Commonwealth army getting destroyed in Cherkassia.
Surprise, the Prussians pop out. A lot of Prussians popping out. But there's the Delians, there's the Chinese, Papal State. They're all
And they're getting stuck in Cherkassia again, with the Prussians attacking there. Ooh, is this a huge battle?
Looks like a split up battle.
Yeah,
I think both sides are losing cohesion quite a bit, and they're both being punished for it.
Yeah, but there's not that many of these that can keep fighting. It's like, okay, Saxony has 1k left, but they have no manpower. Brunswick has no manpower. Commonwealth is...
Well, he has manpower, but he needs to spend it all reinforcing his men, which is what he's trying to do. He's got his troops trying to chill out and reinforce men, but that takes time. That takes quite a bit of time.
The Indians are tapped as well, so...
Changed, that Indian manpower was real hefty early on. And yeah, Delhi is actually in 140 deficit for reinforcing their units. They're almost tapped out on professionals as well. Nepal's completely tapped out. Nepal's got nothing they can really bring to this anymore unless they rev up some mercs to bring in. So this is how, in my eyes, the Prussians can win this. They exhaust their enemies, tap them out one by one. Whereas the attackers, I imagine, wanted to get Commonwealth out of the picture as quickly as possible, but they stalled out, and the Commonwealth now have most of their land back under their control. In fact, they've managed to get Austria proper back, and will soon have Inner Austria back.
The Prussians have 100k up in Scandinavia.
I wonder if they're just there to protect it now, because they've seen what the Japanese are up to.
But there are, like, only one more Prussian army.
He's dedicated quite a lot of his troops up there, but maybe he just thinks that Commonwealth, Brunswick and Saxony can do more of the fighting around here. But Brunswick can't really fight on that much. He doesn't have much of an anything left.
He's got money.
Well, he does have money. Speaking of which, Prussian, okay, they're still at 13,000. They're not hemorrhaging money quite as hard as they did before, but if they didn't have a good amount of money tucked away, that would have been grim.
Oh. They're tapping their professionalism. So is Saxony. So is Prussia.
Yeah, they've got to do that to get their manpower.
Vermont is trying to white peace up.
I see that. Like I said, that's how Prussia can get through this.
Yeah, but Vermont is doing well.
How about the United States? How are they doing against Mexico?
winning.
Surprisingly enough. There were a lot of Mexicans. Where'd they all go? Ah, they're up north in Vermont. Of course, Vermont's involved as well, so that's distracting the Mexicans. They've got Vermont's capital in Iowa. No, that's not Vermont's capital. That's Assiniboine in Iowa.
I like how Kaiser is basically just ravaging the Prussian.
He's just seeking and destroying the Prussian fleet and then torching Scandinavia. But there's the thing, since Kaiser dominates the seas, pretty much worldwide dominates the seas, he can dictate his own targets, and as long as they are overseas, there's very little others can do against him. I think the only person that has a reasonable chance of taking Japan on the seas would be Jerusalem, and even then it would probably have to be an inland sea so he could put his galleys to use. And yes, Milan's peace offer is not a show of weakness from the Milanese player. It's Milanese AI, and since the war has gone on for 11 years and drained Milan's people and probably coffers, they of course want out. Right, seems like the Pope and Andalusia are trying to de-siege a land in Sardinia Piedmont. Even Benin is over there. More fights going on in Landshut, but that's for good old Milan. Somebody points out that if Timurid player were in here today, it would be the perfect opportunity to backstab the Indians. I wonder if the Mexican player were here today, he still would have taken that decision to fight the USA. It's a good decision. The rest of the world is far too busy to help.
If those had been playing, they would have been in a coalition as well. Do you seriously think that Wiz would have left them being neutral in the middle?
Wiz leaves no room for neutrality. Well, then again, France is in, and France did not take part in all of this.
Yeah, but France, let's put it this way, I'd rather have Genoa on my side than France in this.
Well, Genoa's chased away the Prussians at least once. Okay, speaking of the Prussians, they're marching right their way back into Southern Commonwealth there. But more Delians pouring in on the side, so much violence. But that's not a good-looking fight for the Prussians. They actually got hammered in that one.
Commonwealth is getting suckered on the side there, but and they're also losing, I think.
Yeah, and that's a great tactic if you're playing in these multiplayers with the big fights. Try to coordinate in a strike so that your enemies can't reinforce. Sometimes it's better to take multiple battles and let the big one wage on rather than let your enemy completely reinforce, because sometimes that numbers game does not work to your advantage. Alright, looks like the attack is back on in the Commonwealth. We have Ming pouring in, we have Brazil, Delhi, Austria. They're watching each other's backs, and during all this, oh, there the Jerusalem fleet sinking the Prussian fleet now, with help from the Japanese transports for whatever reason. And Prussia, I don't know where Prussia can keep running to. It's got plenty of coastline for sure, but the coastline isn't really fortified. That doesn't give them a lot of security.
Saxon armies in Western France trying to protect. Brunswick is in one place. I think they just spread too thin and are too few.
Yeah, they're not doing what worked for them early on in the war, which was to get their units together. You know, Prussian cannons on the back, everybody else pushing through. But now it looks like Saxony is a bit too content to stay in Saxon lands. Brunswick is a bit too busy being tapped out. And for this, the resurgence of aggression in the Commonwealth seems to be working out. And here we go, right? Somebody has taken up the just cause to siege down Commonwealthy Russia. And that is Yemen.
I mean, it's not exactly the greatest military power, so...
that's the best use for them. You want your best fighters there on the front line. If you have a nation that doesn't have particularly strong forces, get them on the sieging. But that's the kind of coordination that can be very hard to pull off in multiplayer. The Austrians got intercepted by the Prussians. Prussians saw the way it was going. When they saw the Delians coming on in, they decided to pull back. Well, Warsaw is on the doorstep. That wouldn't be good for Commonwealth, who's on -11 war score now. But knowing the French paradox, I don't think he'd be so keen to peace out early in this war. Never know, though. You never know. He likes to stay good to his deals, although he's being fought by Hungary, who he had so many agreements with early on. Ooh, Delhi stacks are too divided and too beaten up. They are getting minced piecemeal by the Prussians. Because they're already so battered, they get reduced to 0 strength in just a few days by a Prussian stack that is well reinforced. That said, now the big fight is coming to them. I feel like the Prussians are fighting less and less well as time goes on here. Yeah,
Well,
they're getting minced.
Commonwealth's professionalism has been down to
It's
pieces.
been slashed in half there.
It's like raising new armies.
I'm seeing Brunswick really raise a whole lot. Saxony, not sure
Oh,
what they're up to
there's
too
a
much.
big battle for Saxony in western France, where they actually...
Yeah, they lost. They're sent away, and look at that. That fort in whatever the hell that province is in Poitou. It's going to be falling down soon. That'll be a rearrangement to the situation because Saxony was enjoying the occupations in Sardinia, Piedmont. Now it goes the other way around. Yeah, I think Sardinia, Piedmont will be glad to stop drinking war exhaustion for all those big fort occupations now. Another big fight happening just east of Warsaw. I think Commonwealth probably really wants to defend his capital at this point. It's only got a level 6 fort on it. It doesn't have a level 8 one. And the Delhi smell blood. They're going in. They're going in for Warsaw. Dangerous strike, but the Prussians are quite far away, and the Commonwealth are trying to regroup. Looks like they have shelled that wall. Alright, well, there we go. Walls breached. It's already at -14 for Warsaw. Daniel says, I hate how even this is. Hate? Oh, I'm loving it. Okay, we have Brunswick, we have Commonwealth, we have Prussia. They're all circling around Warsaw. But Delhi have reinforcements from Sardinia, Piedmont, Delhi, Brazil, and more Delhi, and Chinese aren't too far away.
They're going in.
They're going in. Fight for Warsaw.
Ooh, they lost it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Prussia must feel like he got the bum deal there. He went in without much reinforcements and was getting shelled for it. Oh, boy. Come on, Warsaw. Fate's in the balance here. But look at that. That was Ming army up in the top, intercepting. Now they can pour in. Prussians bringing in some more infantry reinforcements, but Japan has actually got boots on the ground. Brazil as well pouring on in. Looks like it's just about artillery in the front lines for the defenders. It is, and for that they take so many losses. Okay, they got a wee bit of infantry reinforcements. Will it be enough? We have more Prussians, but we also have more Brazilians. Everything's on the line on this fight, especially for the Commonwealth holding their capital. Oh no, everything's crumbling for Delhi and friends. They have no reinforcements coming in. Chinese arriving too late, and Warsaw holds.
Wow.
Whew. Oh, the Commonwealth must have felt that one. 62,000 men deficit.